You are listening to TBR Radio presents The DIXIE Heritage Show, with your host, the Director of DIXIE Heritage, Dr. Ed DeVries.
It's good to be back for another broadcast of TBR Radio Presents The DIXIE Heritage Show, coming to you now for the first time from what will be our new studio here in Maryland. I wish I could say that we're up and going here in the new offices in the new studio. That simply is not the case, but we are at least in the building. And so pray that we can get some things done. If you hear some background noise going on, I've got some sheetrock guys going on in another room right now. There is some kind of a moisture pump that pumps the moisture out from under the building that keeps kicking on continuously. There's something wrong with it. We need to get that work done. And the heat pump keeps kicking on and grinding and making this god-awful noise. And we're going to have that looked at as well. And so bear with us if you hear some background noise from time to time. We're working on those things. But in today's broadcast, we've got something special for you. Here, a few weeks ago, I interviewed Harry Cooper, who is the founder of Sharkhunters International. He's somebody who I had read one of his books a number of years ago, and I'm like, I'm going to make the trip down to Tampa one day. I'm going to set up a meeting with this guy. I'm going to meet him. I'm going to get to know him. And he's just somebody that I want to learn from. But I never got around to it. Come to find out that the address in that book was an old address, and he had actually been living 10 minutes away from me for a number of years in Florida. And I could have met him anytime I wanted to. He ate breakfast at a restaurant about 8 minutes down the road every day. I could have met him every day. So anyways, long story short, I met him for breakfast a couple of weeks ago there in Florida. We had about a 2-hour breakfast conversation, and then we recorded a radio interview. An hour of it is on my other show, TBR Radio Presents, the TBR History Hour, and he's the guest this week on that show. But there was about a 10-minute segment in there that we got to talking about Morris Dees and the Southern Poverty Law Center, because our guest today, Harry Cooper, he has no Confederate ancestors, but at one time he was the number one person on the Southern Poverty Law Center hate list. And so we talked about how he got to be on the top of that list even without having a Confederate ancestor. We also talked a little bit about one of his great-grandfathers who was the oldest man to have ever run for president of the United States. You know, they say Bernie Sanders is going to be the oldest whatever. This guy was the oldest whatever, and it was one of our guest ancestors today. So we'll be talking about that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slip into that interview with Harry Cooper. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Barnes Review.
Open your web browser and type in www.barnesreview.org and discover the Barnes Review magazine. In the Barnes Review, you will read vignettes of man, from the prehistoric to the very recent, from forgotten races and civilizations to first-person accounts of World War II and the late Cold War. There is no more interesting magazine published today, nor a more significant and important subject than real history. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review. You can subscribe to receive the Barnes Review magazine in its print form, or in convenient electronic delivery. Our host has been a subscriber to both formats for years. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review.
You had told me at breakfast today that you were at the top of Morris Sleaze's Southern Poverty Law Center hate list. And you don't even have a Confederate ancestor.
Morris Sleaze. No, I don't have any Confederate ancestors. Nobody in my whole family has lived in the South until we moved here. My daughter is born right here in this county. She says she's grits, girls raised in the South. My son was born down in Fort Myers. My family, the Coopers, on this branch of the Cooper family, we are not immigrants into the United States. The United States is immigrants into us, because my family was here from about 1740 onward. Peter Cooper, like I told you, was my great-great-grandfather's uncle. He invented the Tom Thumb's streetcar. He was the oldest man to ever run for the presidency of the United States. And I have another ancestor who wrote 31 books, like you wrote 31 books. Most of his books were incredibly boring, spy books, sea books, but he wrote one called The Last of the Mohicans, which kind of caught on. And so it's been a famous branch of the family. They've done a lot to help the United States grow, but nobody ever lived in the South, just because we were up north, because that's where the jobs were.
So tell me about your grandfather, your great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather's run for the presidency. What do you know about that? It's an election year, so.
He was ill. Yeah, he was ill. I don't know. It was way back. I forget who defeated him, but you Google him. His name was Peter Cooper, and he was on the Greenback Party, and he did not win, obviously, and maybe that's just as well for this country. I have no idea, but he founded the Coopers Union in upstate New York. He was an apprentice with Robert Fulton on the steamboat Claremont, and then he built his own steam-powered locomotive, the Tom Thumb, which lost the race to the horse-drawn streetcar, even though he was way ahead of the streetcar, but the drive belts broke, and that was it. He just sat there huffing and puffing and steam in the middle of the street. I think that was in Albany, New York. I'm not sure. The Cooper family is all upstate New York until my grandpa moved to Illinois. Dad was born in Galesburg, Illinois, and then Grandpa moved to.
So go ahead and tell me about your interactions with the Southern Poverty Law Center and how you ended up at the top of their hate list.
Oh, yeah. Well, first off, they saw my name on the Barnes Review as a contributing editor, which I didn't even know it was there. Willis was my friend, and he put me there. He thought it would enhance my CV, even though I had been writing magazine articles for years for boating magazines when I lived on my boat in the Bahamas. Also, when I was driving the super speedways, I was a features editor for Stock Car Racing magazine. So he thought he was doing me a favor. And then Heidi, we were trying to remember her last name, Bayrich, Heidi Bayrich, Dr. Heidi Bayrich. She's the 550-pound lesbian who is their attack dog, so I read. Anyhow, she called here and wanted to know about Sharkhunters, and I told her we're a history group. And she pops up, well, you've got so-and-so in membership, so-and-so, and it's naming off a lot of the German U-boat commanders. Yeah, they're members. They're friends of mine. Well, they're all Nazis. I said, no, they're not Nazis. They were German military people. Yeah, Nazis. And I could see where she was going. And I said, well, don't forget Ronald Reagan was an active member, as were the 4 Medal of Honor winning American submarine commanders. And I went on to list all sorts of newsmen and military people from the Allies. Yeah, doesn't matter. I said, well, I can see where you're going here. And so if you want to ask pertinent questions, okay. But if you just want to be on a Nazi hunt, I'm not interested. And so then I hung up on her. So then when you Google Sharkhunters, it'll come up Sharkhunters-Southern Poverty Law Center. And I'm right there at the top of the list. Bless my heart. But they got a lot of stuff wrong. First off, they got it wrong that I'm a Nazi. I'm not a neo or any kind of Nazi. Never have been. I'm a Republican, which probably means the same to those guys. And they got my age wrong. They said I was born 1944. No, I was born in 39. What else? I think they said I was a Navy officer. No, I was in the Air Force. So, but the biggest thing, they know absolutely that I'm not a Nazi. Never have been. But they make money by scaring the hell out of people that want to donate. The FBI used to give them money all the time to find hate groups. But then some years ago, the FBI found out that they would point the finger at Mickey Mouse if it brought them money. And I ran their financials a few years ago, and they had brought in $50 million that year alone in donations, tax-free donations. And at that point in time, this was about 5 years ago, they had $340 million in their operating expense fund. Like I told you this morning, I looked at my bank account. I got $428 in it. They've got dozens of lawyers on staff. So how do you sue those people? But, you know, be it as it may, they'll have to answer someday to somebody. And Morris Sleaze, as you call him, Morris D's, we got a whole website with all sorts of links to people who have comments about Morris D's and his I think he was arrested and charged for pedophilia, wasn't he?
Well, his own stepdaughter has come out, and apparently he was, he was crawling all over her for years, or trying to. And and apparently somebody else has come out now, and apparently, he's facing charges for child molestation, and I don't know if that's going to go anywhere because there's a statute of limitations on that stuff and whatever, but I know that when that started hitting the fan, if you will, about a year or so ago, it was like one day he was the director of the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the next day he was retiring.
Well, I thought he got fired. That's what I saw. And his co-founder, Richard Cohen, he quit within a week after D's got bounced. And then a gal who was in charge of their legal department, which surprised me. I thought that's all they was a legal department. Can't remember her first name. Her last name was Brownstein. She quit. So obviously, it's a rotten place. What's his name there? That nice black doctor that ran for president and is now head of HUD.
Ben Carson.
Brain surgeon.
Dr. Ben Carson.
They outed him as a hater. Yeah, Dr. Ben Carson. They outed him as a hater, and they had to walk that back real quick. And then some Muslim guy, they badmouthed him, and it cost them 3-point-something or another million to get out of that one. So that they're full of lies, and maybe they find some hate groups. What's a hate group? If somebody wants to burn a cross, who's to say that's wrong? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't give a damn. Like I say, I've never been a Nazi. If I wanted to be a Nazi, it's my right, although I don't see any benefit in it. I'm a Republican. That's it.
Well, you talk about Chicago. Remember Frank Cohn, the American Nazi Party?
Well, yeah, he was there, and there were various others there. And
that's my point. If you wanted to be a Nazi, it's not like they're hard to find.
That's for sure. And, it's not like the old days where the Klan would lynch people. Now, if they want to walk around with their hoods, who the hell cares? They don't do anything. I'll tell you what. I remember a show, oh, man, it must have been 15, 20 years ago, on the Jerry Springer show. He always has left-wing audiences, and they were doing an expose on the Klan. So they had 2 or 3 Klans people out there, an old man and a woman and a younger person. They're probably inbred for generations, and they had an IQ about the same as their shoe size. And they were getting booed all the time. And so Springer says, well, I want to bring out the leader of the Florida Klan, the Grand Dragon, or whatever the hell they call him. And he comes out with his robes and his little pointy hat. And they're all booing like they're like a good, well-trained audience, like Dr. Pavlov's dogs getting ready to have the steak thrown their way. And when he waits till the booing is all done, he's standing there with his arms crossed. He takes off his little pointy hat. He says, you're right, Jerry. He says, these robes just don't do it for me anymore. I'm done with the Klan. And all these snowflakes, they're all screaming and applauding and everything. He pulls off his white sheet, and he's wearing the uniform of a black SS colonel. And everybody stops in mid-applause, and he says, these people really know how to handle race relations. And it just shows the hypocrisy, the idiocy of the whole works. Like I say, back in the day when they were lynching people, okay, that's wrong. That's bad. Never should happen. But now if people want to march around in white sheets and carry signs, or people want to walk around with armbands with swastikas, who the hell cares? If they're not hurting anybody, who the hell cares?
So what's the
Obviously,
question?
Fat Heidi cares.
Extra, read all about it.
If you're like me, and I'll bet you are, you like to be on the cutting edge of honest news and accurate information. You like to hear about the latest financial trends and to know what's happening around the world and right here in the United States. The things that can directly impact you, your life, and the life of your family. And if you're like me, you do not rely on the mainstream media to obtain this information because, frankly, you know that you just can't trust them. 26 times a year, the American Free Press newspaper can be delivered to your door, packed with the kind of uncensored news that I know you're going to appreciate. AFP covers the stories and tells the truth that the lamestream media is frankly scared to touch. And AFP offers real, on-the-scene reporting and commentary, the likes of which you will never see in the Washington Post, the New York Times, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, or just about any other lamestream news source that you can think of. And that's the American Free Press. AFP publishes exciting, in-depth, uncensored news and information that's grassroots and patriotic, information that Americans need to know in order to combat the growing police state. If you're ever dissatisfied with your subscription to the American Free Press, their guarantee is that you just drop them an email and they will gladly refund the unused portion of your subscription. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.americanfreepress.net. Once again, www.americanfreepress.net. And find out about the American Free Press. Do it today.
Extra, read all about it.
Every so often when he comes out with a new song or a new video or some new music that he's written or produced, our friend John Schneider will send me a video and he'll tell me, hey, if you want to put this out there for your audience, I'd appreciate it. And I've been sitting on a few of these now for a little while, and we've got a little bit of time in today's show. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one of them out there for you, and it's a song that I think a lot of folks can relate to. And it's called I Ain't Ever Getting Out of This Town.
Well, there's only one road running through these parts. It pretty much stops right where it starts. It goes nowhere except around and around. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. Well, the train pulled out and it never came back. Now there's weeds growing up through the rusty old tracks. Then planes flying over, but they'll never touch down. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. But there's this dream that I've been dreaming now for years, where I fly into the sun and disappear. I got an old orange Charger sitting up on blocks, bunch of greasy old parts in a cardboard box. Got him running one time, but he broke back down. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. Been stealing Becky's kisses since 11th grade. we're shopping for a stroller and a wedding gown. I ain't ever gonna get out of this town. But there's this dream that I've been dreaming now for years, where I fly into the sun and disappear. But you just can't get there from here. Well, we buried my daddy, sang Amazing Grace. The preacher says now he's in a better place. But I couldn't help thinking when we put him in the ground, I ain't ever gonna get out of this town.
I'd like Beaus Extravaganza to be the single largest outdoor event in the Southeast. The sky is the limit with Beaus Extravaganza. It's limited by only my imagination, and there ain't no limit on that.
I ain't going down early or easy. If I wake up, I won't remember tonight.
Go to John Schneider Studios and pick up your tickets there for Beaus Extravaganza. That will be April 4th and 5th, which coincidentally is John Schneider Bo Duke's birthday. So you'll get to celebrate the birthday of one of our great Hollywood legends. And you'll get to basically go to his birthday party, and the cast of the Dukes of Hazzard will be there. The cast of the Haves and the Have-Nots will be there. I believe Cooter's Garage Band is going to be there this year. I even heard the Bellamy Brothers might be there this year. If they're not there, that one was on me, not on John. So don't go to John and say, "Hey, John, Dr. Ed over at Dixie Heritage said the Bellamy Brothers were going to be here." But anyways, you want to go to johnschneiderstudios.com, and you want to get your tickets for Beaus Extravaganza. It's going to be the biggest birthday bash you have ever been to, and it's going to be fun. They're going to be jumping General Lee's. They're going to be crashing police cars. You'll get to meet the cast of the Dukes of Hazzard. There's a big carnival, it's just a lot of fun, and you definitely want to be a part of that. So what have I been doing this week other than just trying to get settled in here in Maryland? Well, I've been putting together a lot of things that were supposed to have been made in China. You know, a lot of times we complain about things being made in China. Well, they don't actually make anything in China. What they do is they have factories in China that put parts in boxes, and then they mail the boxes to the United States, and you make the stuff yourself. I wish it was made in China. I really do. Then I wouldn't have to make the stuff myself. I spend hours putting something together that was supposed to have been made in China. Made in China means that it's made. It means it's done. Okay, a box of parts that I have to put together myself was not made in China. It was simply packaged in China and shipped to me in pieces so that I can make it myself. I mean, I'm not Amish, okay? If I wanted to make, Amish people, maybe they enjoy making their own furniture. I don't know. I can drive about an hour up the road here. Actually, I can drive about 15 minutes up the road. And there's an Amish community. And if I asked them to, they would make me some beautiful furniture. Okay, the stuff that's supposedly made in China is nowhere near as beautiful as the furniture that the Amish folks up the road are making, but they make it. I mean, the Amish people don't give me a box of parts and say, "Okay, here, put this together." No, when I ask an Amish person to make me a desk or a bookcase or a chest of drawers, guess what? They make me a desk or a bookcase or a chest of drawers. I have a desk and a chair and other things that I've been putting together all week long, and it's just crazy. Anyways, that's my rant and rave, I guess you could say, for the week. But this coronavirus thing, I don't know if you've heard about that or not. It's just crazy. I saw a picture today. You know, there are a lot of people who will not drink Corona beer because they're afraid that they will catch the coronavirus. You say, oh, Dr. Ed, you're making that up. No, I'm not. It was actually on Fox News earlier this week. But I saw this picture the other day, and it was another death from the coronavirus. And what it was a man, and he was wearing a pair of panties on his face, kind of like a surgical mask or a dust mask. And he had a bottle of Corona beer. And what the caption said, that his wife killed him when he came home wearing the wrong mask. Maybe you have to see it to get it. I don't know. But anyways, are you like me? Are you getting sick and tired of hearing about this coronavirus? They're saying that it's going to devastate the U.S. economy. You know why it's going to devastate the U.S. economy? Because of that whole Made in China thing that I was ranting on about a few minutes ago. They're saying it's shutting down production. You know, this should be a blessing because our manufacturers should simply move the production of things from China back to the United States. We just start making our cars, we start making our computers, we start making our phones, we start making our television sets, we start making our microwaves and our blenders, or our pharmaceuticals for that matter. They're saying, you know, how many of our pharmaceuticals are produced in China and how it's going to be a disruption of the pharmaceutical business. Well, we shouldn't be trusting things like pharmaceuticals to the Chinese anyways. And so this should be our grand opportunity to bring all of our production and manufacturing back to the United States. And so the only way that this can be devastating to the economy of the United States is if corporate America refuses to make things in the United States. As long as they're willing to return manufacturing and production back to the United States, this is an economic devastation, folks. This is an economic blessing. And so if this turns out to be an economic disaster, it's because of the globalists and because of the powers that be and because of the greed of corporate America and so forth that simply refuses to give Americans the opportunity to make things right here in America. And I hope that when we start making things in America again, I hope that we actually make them and we don't go from having Chinese people putting parts in boxes and expecting people to put it together themselves to having Americans putting parts in boxes and, again, expecting us to put it together ourselves. In fact, anyways, I'm not going to go back to that rant. But we've got one more commercial that we need to get to here, and that's from the Sons of Confederate Veterans. And as soon as that little 30-second or so word is complete, we'll be back with the last few moments of TBR Radio Presents the Dixie Heritage Show.
Hello, I'm Tom Strain, Lieutenant Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The Confederate flag, Confederate symbols, and the reputation of our Confederate ancestors has come under attack. The Sons of Confederate Veterans is actively fending off our detractors, but there is only so much that we can do. We need your help. Contact your local, state, and national elected politicians and tell them that you will not tolerate these attacks on our heritage. You can also visit scv.org, download an application to join us in our fight to preserve our Southern heritage. Visit scv.org today. If you don't have a Confederate ancestor and you are tired of American history disappearing, you can assist us by becoming a friend of the SCV. Please visit scvheritagedefense.org and make a donation to the Heritage Defense Fund. We hope that you will join us in the fight to defend the Confederate soldiers' good name.
We are all but out of time for this week's TBR Radio Presents the Dixie Heritage Show, but I do hope that you will take the time to go to Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever your favorite search engine is and look up Sharkhunters International. It's a great organization, and I am proud to be a member of it. And you'll want to look that up, some great books, some great videos, and you'll just want to avail yourself of some of those resources. Also, go to www.dixieheritage.net. That's my website, www.dixieheritage.net. And when you're there, you can sign up to receive my newsletter absolutely free of charge every week. The Dixie Heritage Letter, we'll email that to you. And when you sign up for that and give us your email address, we'll also send you a free copy of my book, The Truth About the Confederate Battle Flag. And it'll be an encouragement to you as well, or maybe it'll be an aggravation to you. In either case, you'll get to read it. And so with that said, I want to thank you for being our guest today. Tune in again, same time, same place next week. We'll be back with another exciting show. Until then, God bless. See you soon.